Isn't it strange how two people can grow up in the same house, with the same parents, in the same neighborhood, or the similar opportunities, and end up in completely different financial worlds? One builds wealth, freedom, and a future. The other stays broke, frustrated, and always waiting for something to change. What made the difference? It wasn't the money. It wasn't the school. It was the mind. One upgraded their thinking, the other upgraded their excuses. You see, poor isn't just a condition of the wallet, it's a condition of the mind. And the mind is a tricky thing. It'll find 100 reasons why you can't before it lets you believe you can. But if you change how you think, you'll change how you feel. If you change how you feel, you'll change what you do. And if you change what you do long enough, well, now you've changed your results. Let me ask you, have you ever met someone who's broke but still confident they know everything? Someone who hasn't read a book since school but has advice for every topic under the sun? That's not a money problem. That's a thinking problem. And as long as your thinking stays small, your income will stay stuck. Here's a strange law of life. If you hand a poor thinker a fortune, the fortune will soon disappear. But if you hand a wealthy thinker a setback, the wealth will return. Why? Because money follows mindset. It always has. It always will. If you don't fix the roots, you can't expect the fruit. So if you've been wondering why things haven't changed, maybe it's time to stop asking about luck or timing or the economy and start asking better questions. What am I believing that's keeping me broke? What am I tolerating that's stealing my future? What do I need to stop saying, stop spending, stop avoiding? Because here's the real secret. Your income is tied to your thoughts more than your job. And your future is being shaped every day, not by what's happening out there, but by what's happening in here. Now let's talk about what keeps people poor and how to unlock the thinking that leads to lasting wealth. Let me tell you something I learned early on. If you don't decide where you're going, you'll end up somewhere you didn't want to be. I've met so many people who work hard, hustle every day, yet never seem to get ahead. And I've learned the reason is simple not lack of effort, but lack of vision. They're digging without a blueprint, running without a destination. Life becomes something that just happens to them instead of something they build. And let me tell you, that's a dangerous place to live. You don't drift into wealth. You design your way into it. The wealthy don't guess. They don't leave their financial future up to luck or chance. They sit down and create it on paper first. When I was a young man, broke and frustrated, someone asked me a question that stopped me cold. They said, "Have you written down your 5-year vision?" I hadn't, not even close. I was just trying to get through the week. But that question stirred something in me. I went home that night and pulled out a yellow pad. I started writing not just what I wanted to earn, but what kind of man I wanted to be, what kind of impact I wanted to have, how much I wanted to save, invest, give away. That vision changed everything. Because once the mind sees something clearly, it begins to move toward it. And when you combine clarity with discipline, you become a force of nature. Most people I've found live only for Friday night. They plan more for a vacation than they do their financial future. They react to bills instead of preparing for opportunity. But vision flips the script. When you have a 5-year vision, your daily decisions begin to align with a higher aim. You stop wasting money on things that don't matter because you've seen something that does. You start investing in books, mentors, skills, and assets because you know exactly where you're headed. Without vision, discipline feels like punishment. With vision, discipline becomes purpose. And I'm not talking about vague dreams like I want to be rich someday. That's not vision, that's fantasy. I mean specific targets. In 5 years, I want to earn $150,000 a year from multiple income streams. I want to own 2 rental properties. I want $50,000 invested in a growth fund. I want to give away $10,000 annually to causes I care about. That's a blueprint. That's a roadmap. That kind of clarity gives your work power and your sacrifices meaning. One of the most dangerous mindsets is survival thinking living just to get through the day. That's the thinking of poverty. It trains your brain to expect little and tolerate less. Wealth begins in the imagination. A rich life is first constructed in the mind, so get quiet, think deeply, take a weekend off and write your future. Be the architect of your wealth. Because if you don't design your life, someone else will. And trust me, they haven't planned much for you. One of the fastest ways to go broke is to try to look rich before you are. And unfortunately, that's what too many people do. They buy things to impress people they don't even like, with money they don't really have. They mistake lifestyle for wealth. But let me tell you something I've learned from personal experience and observation. Real wealth is not loud, it's quiet, disciplined, and hidden in your habits, not your image. When I was young and broke, I didn't end up that way by accident. I spent more than I made. I justified every unnecessary purchase with the lie that I deserved it. A new jacket, a nicer car, dinners out, whatever I could get my hands on until I was left with a mountain of frustration and no foundation for the future. Then I learned a simple principle. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. That principle changed everything. I began to live on 70% of what I earned, no exceptions. 10% I gave because I believe money multiplies when you become a giver. 10% I saved because peace of mind is built with margin. And the other 10% I invested because I didn't just want to work for money, I wanted money to start working for me. That's the formula I followed when my income was small, and I kept following it when it grew. And let me tell you, it's not about the amount. If you can't manage $1,000, you won't magically become a genius at $10,000. You train the muscles of discipline with whatever you've got. You see, overspending is a symptom. The real issue is deeper, it's emotional. We spend out of boredom, out of insecurity, out of envy. But money must not be used as therapy. That's how it slips through your fingers, like water through a cracked bucket. That's why you need a budget not as a punishment, but as a blueprint. A budget is what tells your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. It puts you back in control. It plugs the leaks. Now, I've had people tell me, but budgeting is boring. Let me tell you what's boring. Being broke at 60. What's boring is running out of options. Freedom is exciting. Confidence is exciting. And those are the rewards of discipline. Every month, I track my expenses with the same seriousness a pilot uses to check his gauges. Why? Because small leaks sink big ships. If you ignore the details will eventually catch up with you. Some people say, well, I'll start budgeting once I make more. That's backwards. The reason you're not making more might be because you haven't proven you can handle what you have now. Financial stewardship attracts financial opportunity. If you want more, you've got to master what you've already got. And you do that by setting limits, measuring inflow and outflow, and living below your means. Not to punish yourself, but to empower your future. So take a hard look at your numbers. Write down your income, your fixed expenses, your flexible spending, adjust, trim, cut what's not essential. Put your money on assignment. Turn every dollar into an employee that works for your goals, not your impulses. And if you do that long enough, one day you'll look back and realize that small habit made a big difference. It wasn't the grand gestures. It was the quiet discipline, repeated monthly, that built something extraordinary. Remember, money doesn't just disappear, it leaks. And if you don't plug the holes, even a river will run dry. When I meet someone struggling financially, one of the first questions I ask is, what's the last book you read? And more often than not, they'll pause, look to the side, and say something like, well, I haven't really had time to read lately. That's the problem. You see, poor thinking doesn't begin with a lack of money. It begins with the decision to stop growing. The moment you believe school was the finish line for learning, you've already capped your potential. Formal education makes you a living, yes, but self-education, that's what makes you a fortune. Let me take you back. I remember when I was broke, not just financially, but in mindset. I was working hard, but I wasn't getting ahead. I thought effort alone would move the needle. But the truth is, effort without direction is just movement. And movement is not the same as progress. It wasn't until someone handed me a book on personal development that everything started to shift. That book opened my eyes to a simple but profound truth. You must become more if you want to have more. That became my mission. I read everything I could, get my hands on books, on wealth, on attitude, on time management, on leadership. I attended seminars even when I didn't fully understand what they were talking about. I sat in the front row, took notes like my life depended on it, because it did, and slowly but surely, I began to change. My thinking expanded, my language shifted, my circle evolved, and not long after, so did my income. The marketplace doesn't pay you for your time. It pays you for the value you bring. And value is a reflection of your skill, your mindset, your problem-solving ability. That's why I always say, don't ask for a raise. Raise your skill level. Don't complain about opportunity. Create it by increasing your value. Your bank account is nothing more than a reflection of your personal development account. If you want one to grow, you've got to grow the other first. People often ask, where do I start? Start with $20 and a trip to the bookstore. Start with 30 minutes in the morning to read instead of scrolling your phone. Start with one online course, one podcast, one new habit. Start with curiosity, because once you fall in love with learning, growth becomes your lifestyle. And once growth becomes your lifestyle, wealth is simply the byproduct. Now, here's the hard truth. Some people stay poor because they don't believe they're worth investing in. They'll spend hundreds on entertainment but won't spend a dime on education. They'll upgrade their phone every year but won't upgrade their thinking. You must reverse that. Your mind is the greatest asset you'll ever own. And like any asset, it either appreciates or depreciates based on how you treat it. I remember a time when I had barely enough to pay my bills, but I set aside money every month for books and seminars. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And looking back, that decision bought me more freedom than any raise I ever received. Because the more I learned, the more confident I became. And the more confident I became, the more action I took. And that's the real formula learn. Believe, act, repeat. The world is changing fast. Skills that were valuable 10 years ago may not be today. If you're not learning, you're falling behind. But the good news is, you're one decision away from a different life. One idea can spark a fortune. One shift in thinking can break a cycle of lack. One book can unlock a future you never imagined. So, make personal growth non-negotiable, schedule it, fund it, prioritize it, read daily, learn something new every week, invest in yourself like your future depends on it, because it does. When you grow, everything around you grows. Your mindset, your confidence, your income, your impact. Never forget, your income rarely exceeds your level of personal development. Grow into the kind of person wealth can trust. I used to think that fear was something to avoid. That if you felt afraid, it meant you weren't ready. But the older I got, and the more I watched how the wealthy moved, the more I realized something important. Fear doesn't go away. You just learn how to manage it. And more often than not, what holds people back from wealth is not a lack of opportunity, but a fear of risk. They fear losing $100 more than they dream of gaining $1,000. And that mindset keeps them exactly where they are. Let me tell you a little story. Years ago, I met a man who told me he'd never invest because he can't afford to lose. So instead, he kept his savings in a jar under his bed. True story. Now think about that. Inflation was eating away at his money every day, but he felt safe because he could see it. That's what fear does. It convinces you that standing still is safer than moving forward. But the truth is, doing nothing is the biggest risk of all. Wealth is built on taking calculated risks, not foolish risks. Not blind gambles, but educated, intentional risks that stretch you just enough to grow. And the good news is, you don't have to start big. You can start small. That's the key. You don't leap off a cliff. You take a step outside your comfort zone. You invest $10 in an index fund. You sign up for a short course that teaches you how to sell or market. You buy a book that opens your mind to new possibilities. Each small action builds your courage muscle. So you don't gain confidence and then take action. You take action and then you gain confidence. That's how it works. I remember the first time I invested in a seminary, it was $200. And at the time, that felt like a lot of money. I was nervous. What if it wasn't worth it? What if I didn't learn anything new? But I went, and it changed my life. Not just because of the content, but because I showed myself that I was willing to invest in my growth. That one risk made the next one easier. The wealthy understand this. They know that you don't grow without stretching. They know that staying comfortable is the enemy of progress. They treat money like a tool, not a treasure to hoard, but a tool to multiply. They test, they try, they fail, they learn, and they get better. That's the game. It's not about never losing. It's about having the courage to keep going. So, here's what I recommend. Start by setting aside a risk budget. Maybe it's just $10 or $20 a month. Use it to try something new. Maybe it's a new stock. Maybe it's a small ad campaign for your side hustle. Maybe it's a course on a skill you've always wanted to learn. You're not doing it to get rich overnight. You're doing it to train your mind. To teach yourself that loss is not fatal. That failure is feedback. That you can survive a setback and come back stronger. And every time you take a small risk, celebrate it. Not just when it works, but when you have the courage to try. That's how you rewire the fear. That's how you build boldness. And before you know it, what once terrified you becomes your new normal. You don't have to bet the farm, but you do have to plant a seed. Let that be your strategismal risks taken often, with a mind eager to learn. Do that, and fear will lose its grip on your future. Because once you start betting on yourself, you stop living in fear and start living in faith. And faith in your own growth is the foundation of every fortune. Let me tell you something that took me years to truly understand. Your environment is not neutral. It's either pulling you up or dragging you down. There's no middle ground. You are, without exception, the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you're surrounded by people who spend every dollar they make, mock ambition, and treat growth as something for other people, don't be surprised when you struggle to break free. Poverty has a gravity. And the strongest pull isn't the lack of money, it's the lack of vision around you. I remember when I first started changing my thinking. I was beginning to read, to save, to take new risks, and I'd go back and sit around some old friends, and it was like entering a different world. They were still talking about the same problems, laughing at the same jokes, blaming the same people. And I started to notice my energy would drop. My ideas felt out of place. And I thought, if I stay here too long, I'm going to stop climbing. That's when I learned the hard truth sometimes. To rise financially, you have to distance yourself emotionally. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying abandon people or treat anyone with contempt. I'm saying you must be intentional with your proximity. If the people around you aren't interested in growth, you need to limit your exposure. Not out of arrogance, but out of survival. The mind is like a sponge. It soaks in whatever it's immersed in. And if your daily conversations are soaked in complaints, lack, and cynicism, your mindset will eventually begin to shrink. One of the biggest breakthroughs in my journey came when I joined a small group of people who thought differently. These were folks who were building businesses, investing wisely, talking about legacy and abundance. And just being around them shifted me. Their language was different, their habits were different. And I realized, wealth isn't just numbers in a bank account. It's a culture, a rhythm, a way of seeing the world. You don't have to start by knowing a millionaire. You start by seeking out people who think like one. You find a mentor, maybe it's someone local, maybe it's someone through books or podcasts. You look for communities, maybe it's a mastermind group, a financial education meetup, even a good online group where people are building wealth together. You expose yourself to better conversations. And sometimes you have to say no to protect your momentum. No to gossip. No to endless entertainment. No to people who laugh when you say you're saving or investing. You don't have to fight them, you just outgrow them. You start showing up in places where people are discussing cash flow, not just paychecks, ideas, not just complaints, possibilities, not just problems. I knew a man once who lived in a small town where no one believed in growth, but he built a virtual circle. He read every book he could, joined every live webinar, reached out to people doing better than him, Today, he runs a 7-figure business, and it started not with money, but with new minds. Here's something powerful. Exposure creates permission. When you see someone who came from where you came from build something great, it tells your subconscious, you can too. That's the value of new circles. They don't just educate you. They elevate you. They raise your standard of what's possible. And sometimes that's all you need to change your life. So if you're serious about breaking the cycle of poverty thinking, audit your circle. Who do you listen to? Who challenges you? Who inspires you to grow? Don't just hope for wealth plant yourself in an environment that makes it grow naturally. And remember, every time you step into a room where the conversations are bigger, your future gets bigger too. Let me tell you, the world doesn't reward wishful thinking. It rewards discipline, especially when it comes to money. You can have the best intentions, the biggest dreams, the grandest vision for your financial future. But if you're not disciplined, it all crumbles. Now, I know discipline isn't a flashy word. It doesn't get the same excitement as jackpot or big win. But here's the truth. Wealth isn't built by hype, it's built by habits. And financial discipline, my friend, is the quiet architect behind every fortune that lasts. I've seen it too many times. People earn well but end up broke. Why? Because their habits are out of control. They make impulse purchases like it's a sport. They buy things to impress people they don't even like. And when life gets emotional, their wallet becomes their therapist. And slowly the financial house collapses. Not because they didn't earn enough, but because they didn't respect what they earned. See, emotional spending is sneaky. One day it's a little treat after a hard day. Next week it's a deserved splurge. And before you know it, the credit card is maxed out and the savings account is empty. Let me give you something simple, but powerful money needs a master. If you don't tell your money where to go, it will go wherever your emotions lead it. And emotions are terrible financial planners. So how do you fix this? Structure. Discipline isn't about being rigid, it's about being smart. It's about creating systems that protect you from yourself. And one of the best systems I ever learned was this. Automate your good decisions. Don't wait to feel motivated to self-automate it. Set up your bank account so 10% goes into savings the moment you get paid. No thought, no hesitation. Let it disappear like a tax. Only this time, you're taxing yourself for your future benefit. And don't stop there. Create ritual, small, consistent habits that build control. Every Sunday, sit down and review your finances. Doesn't have to be long, 15 to 30 minutes. Ask yourself, what did I spend this week? Did I stick to my plan? Where did I drift? Use a notebook, a whiteboard, a spreadsheet, whatever makes you stay present. The point isn't perfection, it's awareness. You can't manage what you don't measure. And here's another key: keep your goals visible. Put them on the wall, on your mirror, on your phone, wallpaper. Remind yourself daily why discipline matters. When you see buy a home in 3 years or be debt-free by 40, it becomes easier to walk past that unnecessary purchase. Goals give discipline a reason to breathe. I remember years ago I had a little whiteboard above my desk. On it were 3 goals. 1, save $5,000 emergency fund. 2, pay off my last credit card. And 3, invest in my first piece of real estate. Every Sunday, I updated that board. Some weeks, progress was slow. But because it was in front of me, I stayed on track. I didn't need to be motivated every day. I just needed the right structure. Discipline also means saying no. And saying no gets easier when you've already said yes to something better. When you've said yes to wealth, to freedom, to legacy suddenly, that new gadget or flashy weekend trip doesn't have the same pull. That's the magic of rituals. They guard your yes and give power to your no. So don't rely on willpower. It fades. Build systems. Build habits. Make financial review part of your weekly rhythm. Automate your savings. Track your spending. And stay emotionally neutral when it comes to money. Wealthy people don't spend based on feelings, they spend based on plan. And poor people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. Don't be among them. Let your rituals do the heavy lifting. Let your consistency build the wealth. Because in the end, success doesn't come from what you do. It comes from what you do every single day, especially when no one's watching. Now let me bring all of this together. If you've stayed with me this far, it's not by accident. There's something in you, maybe quiet, maybe still developing, but something in you knows there's more to your life than just getting by. Something in you knows you're supposed to lead, to grow, to build. Not just for yourself, but for the people who depend on you, the people watching you, the people who will come after you. And that journey, that transformation from average to extraordinary, from financial struggle to financial independence, it starts in one place, your mind. Your mindset is the thermostat of your life. If it's set on survival, no matter how much money you make, you'll find a way to sabotage it. But if it's set on growth, on wealth, on freedom, then you'll rise to meet that vision, even if you have to start from the basement. Start with your mind. Read, journal, visualize every morning, even if it's just 15 minutes. Feed your mind the ideas of people who've done more, been more, built more. The same way your body needs food, your mind needs fuel. Don't just drift into your day, design it. Write out what you want. Imagine yourself already walking in it. Because what you picture consistently, you begin to pursue instinctively. Then you've got to give that mind a direction. Set financial goals, not just vague, hopes-clear goals. Write down where you want to be in 90 days. Then 1 year, then 5 years. Do you want to be debt-free? Own property? Save your first $10,000? Earn $100,000? Be specific. The vague dream produces vague results. Wealthy people don't guess their way there, they plan their way there. Once your goals are set, don't let your money wander. Track every dollar. Know exactly what's coming in, what's going out, where it's going, and why. Money's like a child. If you don't keep your eyes on it, it will get into trouble. And if you don't respect money, it won't respect you. You want financial peace? You start with financial clarity. Now, with that awareness, create a budget, a plan. One of the best rules I ever learned was the 70 to 10, negative 10, negative 10 rule. Live on 70% of what you make. Save 10%. Invest 10%. Give 10%. That one principle, if followed with discipline, can lead almost anyone from broke to blessed. Because the goal isn't just to look rich, it's to be rich. Quietly, wisely, over time. But your income will never grow faster than you do. So, increase your value. Learn high-paying skills. Solve bigger problems. Get better at communication, sales, marketing, leadership. Money flows to value. And if you want to earn more, become more. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise. Raise your skill set. Raise your confidence. Raise your standards. That's how wealth is built from the inside out. And don't stop at one stream of income. One job is not enough. Not in this world. It might pay the bills, but it won't buy freedom. Build side incomes. Write a book. Start a small business. Learn to trade. Sell online. Invest. Use your time after work not just to relax, but to build. Because if one stream dries up, you want others still flowing. Start investing early, consistently, wisely. Don't wait until you have enough. $10 invested wisely is more powerful than $100 later, lost in procrastination. Time is your greatest asset. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. Don't just save, grow. Put your money to work so one day you don't have to. And along the way, build a powerful circle. Get around mentors. Join masterminds. Find people who stretch you, challenge you, make you uncomfortable in the best way. Because wealth is contagious, but so is poverty. Audit your environment. Who are you listening to? Who do you spend your time with? Surround yourself with those walking the path you want to walk. Iron sharpens iron. Now let me give you something most don't expect on the road to riches. Generosity. Give. Not just because it's noble. Give because it keeps your heart aligned with abundance. When you give, you remind yourself that you're not a victim, you're not empty. You have enough, more than enough, to bless someone else. That's a wealthy mindset. Scarcity hoards. Abundance shares. And when you give cheerfully, something powerful happens. Life gives back. But all of this, every single point I've shared, means nothing without one thing: consistency. It's not what you do once that builds wealth. It's what you do every day. Wealth is built like a house, one brick at a time. Show up daily. Keep your rituals. Track your progress. Celebrate small wins. Stay steady. Because random bursts of motivation won't make you rich, but quiet, boring, faithful discipline will. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be persistent. So let me ask you now, what kind of life do you want to build? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? What kind of example do you want to become? Don't wait for someone to rescue you. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for someday. Start now. Start with what you have, with where you are. Read one chapter, save $1. Start one side hustle. Give one gift. Build one new habit. One change creates a ripple, and ripples over time change everything. You've got the information. Now it's time to take action. Don't just be a listener, be a builder. Use these 10 principles not as suggestions, but as instructions. Revisit them weekly. Post them on your wall. Live by them. And 1 year from now, your life will not look the same. Because the secret to wealth was never a secret. It's always been discipline, wisdom, service, and time. Master those, and money becomes a servant, not a master. Now go build. You've got what it takes.